Hello and welcome to the WriteCome.com podcast, where we help you to make money from your words. Each episode will be sharing tips, tricks, and strategies you can use to make more money from your writing, publishing, and marketing to your fans and audience. Let's get started with your host, Barry J. McDonald.
Hi, this is Barry here, and you are very, very welcome to today's podcast episode from WriteCome.com. And today I want to talk about the lies that we tell ourselves. Now that we are coming up to the end of 2020, a lot of us can't wait for this year to be over. A lot of us can't wait to put up the Christmas tree, put up the fairy lights, just to add some little bit of a sparkle in our homes because, over this past couple of months, there's been a lot of doom and gloom. There's been all the social distancing. There's not being able to go out and meet our friends or shopping or whatever. So our lives this year has been a lot different to other years. And as happens at the end of this year, a lot of us, as it comes up to Christmas time, we do kind of get a little bit nostalgic. We look back to probably Christmases from years ago and we do kind of put them on a pedestal compared to maybe how things are now. Even when I remember back to Christmases when I was born in the early 70s, so between the 70s and the 80s, I do look back fondly on Christmases when I was growing up, probably because Santa Claus and everything was coming, and the toys at the time, when I remember them back now, they probably seemed like the most amazing toys I ever had and a lot better than what the kids get nowadays. But if I had been put into my DeLorean and sent back in time back to the 70s and 80s, I would probably look at those toys in a completely different way. I would probably see them for what the basic things that they are compared to some of the high-tech gadgets and everything the kids have nowadays. I think if I had got some of the toys now back then, I think it would have blown my mind on the things that they were able to do. When I remember some of the early computers I used to put on my Santa Claus list, hoping that I would get, but unfortunately we didn't have the money at the time and I never got them. But I know if I even had got one of those computers back then, it would have been amazing. So as I said, around this time of year we do get very nostalgic. We probably look back on past Christmas, and particularly this Christmas now coming up this year, we are probably going to look at it as a welcome relief than what has been going on earlier on in the year. And that's what I want to talk about today. I want to talk about the kind of nostalgia we have for certain things, in that our brain tells us lies depending on where we are in our particular whatever work we're doing or whatever. For example, when I look back to my early fiction books, I remember sometimes when I was maybe writing a fiction book, I would get to a part in the book where the characters were maybe surrounded by their enemies, and I had kind of written my characters into a kind of a dead end that I never thought I could get them out of. And I do remember being totally frustrated at that time and tearing my hair out for weeks, trying to come up with some kind of a plausible escape, almost like the James Bonds, the way Q gives him this small invention that is going to maybe blow a hole in a wall or knock out darts, is going to knock out the guard, or a laser that's going to cut through chains or whatever. So I used to spend a lot of time, unfortunately, when I would write myself into those dead ends, trying to find some perfect way that would seem plausible, that would, it wouldn't seem like what the reader would kind of stop for a second and say, well, how the hell did they get out of that? That doesn't make sense at all. So I was trying to find the perfect way that I was getting in. And unfortunately, as I said, I would sometimes be totally frustrated, and I would curse myself for putting my characters in such a kind of a position where they couldn't actually get out of it so easily. I had written them into too well of a drama. But as I said, I would tear my hair out for a couple of weeks trying to come up with some kind of solution that would seem plausible, but that would get me into the next part of the book. Now, looking back at my books right now, I am if I do kind of look through them with a little bit of nostalgia, I can look back at those books and I don't remember all those hard things. It's only when I actually think about them now that I remember them. But on the majority and the whole, I can look back at those books as being probably the most fun time I had. I remember sitting in the car writing out a couple of chapters, and I can remember the books going smoothly. But in reality, the reality was far, far different. And as I said, our brain sometimes, when you look back with nostalgia, it usually leaves all the bad parts out. It picks out it almost highlights the good pieces, and it kind of puts together a highlight reel of all the good things. It's like going to somebody's Instagram feed or whatever, or Facebook wall, where they are posting all the best content. They're always in the best clothes, and they're always a happy couple, and their children are always graduating from university with degrees and everything, and they just look like they are having the sweetest life ever. But you and I know that in fact that is just a highlight reel, and the reality is probably far different. But as I said, our mind sometimes sometimes does build this kind of nostalgia or highlight reel of the times, years ago when whatever work you were going through, it was probably impossible at the time, but now that you have a little bit of space between it, maybe a couple of months or a couple of years, you probably look back on it being, a fantastic time in your life and everything ran smoothly and you knew what you were doing, and, you kind of put it this kind of rose-tinted glasses on it. Compared to maybe where you are right now, maybe if you are heading into a fiction book, maybe you are heading into some kind of business, maybe you're just starting up a blog or whatever, when you do kind of look from where you are into the future, you are probably, don't know what you're doing. You're confused, you're probably lost, you're probably wondering, should I be doing this? Am I wasting my time? Am I going to look back on this time with total regret, or how am I going to do it? And you will find, in maybe 6 months' time or a year from now, you will probably look back at this moment in time as perfect, that you knew exactly what you're doing, you knew exactly how to set up your blog, you knew exact content you were going to write, you knew the exact fiction book you need to be writing. And as I said, your mind kind of, depending on where you are, it looks at your situation in two different ways. When it looks back in the past, it's probably going to give you the highlight reel of everything being smoothly and you knowing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. But when your mind actually jumps into the future from where you are right now, you're probably panicking, you're probably sweating, you're probably doubting yourself, and it's going to throw up the kind of all the hurdles, all the work that needs to be done, and everything that needs to happen for you to be successful, either finishing that book or the blog or whatever it is. But your mind kind of looks in, differently, whether you look forwards or whether you look backwards. So it's amazing sometimes the way, the lies our brains tell ourselves. Now, if you find maybe that you have a lot ahead of yourself, maybe you're starting some new kind of, a business or whatever, and you're just panicking right now, you don't, exactly know what you need to do next, or you just don't think you have the skills to do it. One of the good ways you can probably do, and this was something I had heard Bob Proctor say before, and that is to actually just close your eyes for a couple of seconds and actually picture yourself at the end of your book, or, with a blog that has maybe a year's content on it, or maybe having that successful YouTube channel where you have a couple of thousand subscribers, or maybe having that podcast where you have maybe 1,000 or 2,000 or however many thousand listeners listening to it, and actually just throw yourself forward in time to that and just picture that, being in that situation, having the book written, having the blog done or whatever, and kind of soaking up that. And you will find that if you do kind of do that regularly, it does kind of take the stress off you. It does kind of, take the doubts off yourself if you're going to get that far, because you're throwing your mind into the kind of, the end position, the place that you are wanting to be. And sometimes if you do kind of throw yourself into the end position, you can actually kind of, if you just kind of, soak it up and just think about it, sometimes you can actually work out a plan from that position back to where you are. If you do find yourself maybe they're in a situation right now and you don't know what the next step is, sometimes actually doing that by throwing yourself off into the future, the 6 months or 12 months ahead of where you are right now, and just picture yourself in that position, you having that fiction book in your hand, or you being that successful blogger or the successful YouTuber or whatever, and actually put yourself in that situation where you are in that position, and then just close your eyes and then just ask yourself, now, what were the steps I needed, or what were the steps I did take to get to where I am right now. Now, it probably seems a little bit crazy, and you're probably going to say, well, that is going to be a total waste of time, because if I don't know, what I'm supposed to do right now, how am I supposed to know, if I put myself in that imaginary situation? But I'm here to tell you that your brain is a fantastic tool, and sometimes we need to, use your imagination. You'll be very, very surprised when you do actually throw yourself into the future, the kind of ideas that you will come up with, or maybe it might take maybe the stress that's off you right now, because you've already got to that point. It's not that you are right now, sweating about, will you get that book ever written, or will you ever be a successful blog or whatever. When you do kind of put yourself into that position, you will probably find yourself a lot more relaxed when you actually go back to your present day and get back into your work, because you have already pictured yourself, you've already had the success, you already have written the book, you already have the kind of successful blog or whatever, and it will kind of maybe take some of the nerves off it, because you've already got to that point. So whatever content you're coming up with now, it won't seem as big a deal. It won't seem as risky. It won't seem as hard to do because you've already got that far. So that is my kind of tip today if you want to try that out. As I said, depending on where you are, nostalgia is a great thing in that, you will probably look back in the past. You'll probably look back 6 months from now or a year from now to where you are right now, and it'll probably give you, as I said, that highlight reel of everything working out perfectly, knowing exactly what you need to do. But as I said, when you do look away into the future, it looks far, far different. You're looking at all the work that needs to be done, the doubts, the fears, everything else. So rather than, using that kind of part of your brain and having it work against you, and instead use it to your benefit. Close your eyes right now for a while, or do it, every so often until you it becomes comfortable to be that person with the fiction book or the popular blog or whatever, and it will kind of give you maybe ideas. As I said, it probably seems like a crazy thing to do and maybe sounds a little bit kind of new age and maybe kind of hippie trippy or whatever, but try that out. Just close your eyes, and as I said, if you are a little bit confused and don't know what steps you need to take next, sometimes you will be very, very surprised when you might get a little bit of inspiration, and you'll kind of get the kind of path from that successful part of you in the future to where you are right now, and then you can simply work along that path you've been given to get yourself up to that point in the future. So give that a try today if you are having problems, or if it does seem that you have so much ahead of you that is just too much for you to do to get there. So as always, if you'd like to ask me a question, or you'd like to reach out to Barry J. McDonald, sorry, that's I meant to give you the full email address. Sorry, if you'd like to email me if you have any questions, at barryjmcdonald@gmail.com, or if you'd like to head over to the Rightcom Facebook page, you're very, very welcome to head over there and give us a like. Or if you'd like to ask me any questions or reach out to me, you can do that on Facebook. That is Rightcom, WRITECOME.com. Or if you want to head over to the Rightcom site, at the moment we have got a great free report over there which is called Words to Wealth, and in it I'm going to show you 10 different ways you can make money from your keyboard from home. So if that intrigues you, if that's something you would like to try out, head over to Rightcom and download the free report. And as always, if you'd like to maybe share this podcast episode with somebody, or let somebody know that this podcast exists, I would really, really appreciate that. And again, as always, thanks for giving up your time with me today. As always, have a great day and take care of yourself. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us today. If you'd like more from the Rightcom.com podcast, be sure to subscribe now for more tips, tricks, and ideas you can use to make more money from your words. See you in the next episode.